guys, welcome to Herndon History. It's a little cloudy outside, and I don't know, today we're just gonna have a little chill day. So get your hot cocoa or whatever you like, and let's just sit back and talk about David Livingstone. David Livingstone. Okay, you ready? So David Livingstone was born in Scotland. He grew up really poor. His family, basically, they all worked at like a cotton mill, and at the cotton mill, they had these small little like 1-bedroom apartments, and him and 6 brothers and sisters and his parents all lived there. And he started working at the mill when he was only 10 years old, and he had to work 12-hour shifts every day. But he did value education, which proved to be really great because, well, let's just appreciate this. First of all, you're 10 years old, you worked a 12-hour shift at a factory job, and then after your factory job, you go put in 2 hours of schooling. But he did that every day. He even would put his schoolwork on the machinery so that he could study it while doing his work. So good for him. So keep studying out there, okay? It'll pay off. When he was 21, this is where it starts getting interesting. When he was 21, he heard a missionary from China named Karl, Gutzlaff. And Karl was saying how there's a need for medical missionaries. And so this just sparked a fire in David Livingstone. He's like, this is what I'm going to do with my life. So he joins the London Missionary Society, and he goes to school to become a doctor. And when he finishes, he's all excited to go to China, and then an opium war breaks out in China, and he can't go. So he's just like, well, great, now what do I do? But then he hears another missionary come named Robert Moffat, who comes and talks to everybody, but about missions in Africa. And that's where Robert Moffat was living, is in Africa, and how there's a need for those people to learn about Jesus. And so David Livingstone's like, I'm in, let's go. I got my bags packed. Here we are. So instead of China, he goes to Africa, and he goes to Robert Moffat's headquarters to become a missionary there. So he doesn't have a goal, though, just for Christianity or helping sick people. He really hates slavery. And he had this thought that if we could explore Africa and find trade routes and get relations with some of these tribes and find easy routes from the coast into Africa, that we could have trade with these African tribes. Instead of doing slave trade, we could do goods, and like we do with India and all these other countries. And it would help everyone, including the African people. So that was his thought, was let's explore Africa and end this slave trade. So he leaves where Robert Moffat is and goes like 200 miles deeper into Africa. And his thought is that he would live with the people and establish like real relationship with them. And one day, this is really good. One day, he hears that there's lions that are attacking the livestock of the village, which, just as a side note, I mean, I'm so grateful. I don't even think about going to my mailbox and not having to be attacked by a lion. But this was like a reality for people. So him and some friends are like, well, if we just shoot one lion, it'll scare the rest away. So they go out and they see the lion, okay? And David Livingstone just, boom, hits the lion. The lion doesn't die. He just gets really, really angry and charges at David Livingstone and clamps down, I don't know which shoulder it was, but bites him on the shoulder and starts like slinging him like a rag doll. And then his friend, I don't want to say his name wrong, Balwi, is there, and he tries to shoot the lion to save David, and then the gun misfires, and then that makes the lion mad. So then he goes and the lion bites Mabawi in the leg, and then a third guy tries to spear the lion, but thankfully the lion died from, I guess, the bullets from David Livingstone finally kicked in. But anyway, these guys are very badly hurt. They survived. So that was the good news. They're injured. They're really hurt. So David Livingstone goes back to where Robert Moffat is to heal and recuperate. But what's sweet about that is his Robert Moffat's daughter, Mary, helps to take care of David, and they fall in love and get married, and they have 6 kids. And so she's grown up in Africa as well and has a heart for ministry. So it was a really sweet match. And she even goes with him on a lot of these expeditions. Some of them, they bring their kids along, which, I mean, like across the deserts. I don't even like taking my kids to Walmart. So I cannot even believe it. And some of the ones, she was pregnant going across like African wild land and deserts. I didn't even want to get off the couch when I was pregnant. So, I mean, this lady is a superstar. But of course, I mean, it was pretty dangerous. They had some pretty like bad situations where they almost didn't make it. And so it was a tough decision because David still wants to explore. He's got this, mission in mind and calling, but then he wants his family to be safe, and he also wants them to have an opportunity for a good education. So they made the tough decision to send Mary and the kids to Britain, Great Britain, to live there, and he stayed in Africa. And then it said, like in one of his journals, that was one of his biggest regrets, that he didn't see his kids more and spend more time with them, because they were over there for, I think, 4 years before he saw them again, and then it was really quick, and then he was back in Africa. So most of his time was spent in Africa. He did, though, and I thought this was really neat. He did have some pretty big accomplishments. In 1855, he had heard about this, amazing waterfall or something, and he goes and he discovers it. He finds it and names it Victoria Falls after Queen Victoria. So he's credited for that. And then the next year, he was the first Westerner to make it all the way across Africa, from the Atlantic Ocean all the way to the Indian Ocean. He also, that same desert we had talked about, he did that desert twice, which is crazy. He survived malaria, which is a pretty deadly disease. It's you can get it from like mosquito bites and mosquitoes and flies and ticks and stuff. But he got malaria and survived 30 times. That is 30 more times than anyone should have to have malaria. And of course, the lion, we can't forget that he survived that. Okay, so why is this a big deal? Well, because of David Livingstone, we were able to have maps now of all this land that was previously uncharted. And also his journals, because he kept all these journals, and the journals made their way back to Great Britain, and they were published for the world to read. And a lot of it showed people the realities of how horrible the slave trade was, and made people aware and want to do something about it and stop it. And so that was important. So he did make great gains in that goal of his to help in the slave trade. The negative, though, that he did not intend was that he's given the world maps and information and all of this about Africa. But the problem is, like, now everyone knows about Africa, and all these countries are like, this place seems great. Let's go and take it. And so what happened was this, what's called like the scramble for Africa. All these countries, wealthy countries, come into Africa and then just start taking the land, that's not good for the people that live there. They just literally took it from them. And so I don't think that's really what David Livingstone had in mind. That was unfortunate. He loved Africa. He loved it so much that when he died, they had his heart buried in Africa, which I think was kind of sweet. And then, but his body, his heart is in Africa, and then they took his body back to Britain to be buried in Westminster Abbey, and which I thought was really cool. If you want a deep dive, go look up who is buried at Westminster Abbey. Queen Elizabeth I, Isaac Newton, Handel, the musician. I mean, it's a big honor. So David Livingstone is there, and actually, guys, I've been there, but I didn't know about David Livingstone, so I didn't even pay attention, and now I'll have to go back, I guess. It's an excuse. So if you're ever there, look for David Livingstone. He's a pretty impressive guy, what he did. All right.